Welcome back to Property Play. I'm your host, Elena Saradidis, and today I have a treat for you. I have my good friend, Andra Arnold, with me today. She's the #1 agent in Guelph, and we're going to talk about all things the Canadian real estate market and economy today.
Oh, that's very exciting, isn't it?
A little spicy.
Okay. So where do we want to start?
I think we should talk about the elephant in the room, the #1 topic in every single newspaper.
The tariffs.
Tariffs.
Okay. So I don't think the tariffs are as big a deal as everybody else thinks they are.
And I should start by saying I brought Andra on to talk about tariffs because she is from a town that is Guelph a town?
We're a city.
We're a city. Okay.
We actually are a city.
I'm like a town. I'm from Toronto. Okay. Like Guelph's a city. So
it is a city.
She's from a city. She's from a city that has a lot of manufacturing.
We do.
So if it's going to affect an area,
it will affect our manufacturing.
Okay.
So we have a large employer named Linamar. They're one of our largest employer. Well, our largest employer is the university, but Guelph itself is a pretty diverse city. So we have federal, provincial jobs. We have the university. We have manufacturing. So like we're pretty stable across the board. So I think it could affect our manufacturing, but I also think the teetering and the wavering and all the things that are going on. I don't think it's going to be as harsh as everybody thinks it is because we have a low dollar. Like our dollar's worth, like we're still a bargain. Canada's a bargain, everybody. Let's be perfectly honest. When our dollar is now at 70 cents, it's, even at 25% more, we're still at only like 86, 87 cents on the American dollar. So it makes no sense not to invest here.
Yeah. And use our labor.
That's
here.
right. Our labor.
It just makes sense.
And our product. It makes no sense still not to buy it. It's going to suck for the Americans because it's going to cost more money. Is it going to hurt a little bit here? Yes. But I don't think you see people that scared. I think the headlines are scary. And I think that we're talking about it being really hard. But have you gone out for dinner lately?
It's still expensive.
No. When you go out for dinner, how busy is the restaurant?
Oh, it's full.
Full. And then is it full in the second seating?
Yeah.
Yeah. Second seating, we have a problem if nobody's showing up for dinner, the second seating. But in the first seating, second seating, how are the malls? What's the Eaton Center like right now?
It's still busy.
Yeah. Go to Sherway Gardens. Go to Stone Road Mall. It's busy. So buyer confidence is out there. People are still spending money, even though everybody's talking about it being terrible. I think that's the indication. The indication is when you see people scared to spend their disposable income, right? And we're not seeing that yet. We're not seeing any kind of retraction.
But do you think we're not seeing it yet because our dollar is so low? And the moment our dollar goes up, we might start seeing it more?
But I think that, no, I don't. I don't. I know that's terrible. That's just my prediction. And that's my take on things that are happening right now. Things are busy in Guelph. Yes, we saw a little bit of a lull for 5 seconds when the first tariffs were announced. But since all of the stuff that's going on right now, I still think it's really busy. We have had an extremely busy week. The craziness that was in the news last week with Zelensky and Mr. Trump or President Trump, we saw it to be very busy. And the day they announced the trade war, which is 3 or 4 days ago, we got 5 offers on 5 different properties.
Okay, but when we're looking at the properties that you got offers on, who were the buyers?
A lot of first-time home buyers.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first-time home buyers, I don't think this is going to affect them at all. Their jobs, I think they have secure jobs. They're working in all sorts of different industries. We've got healthcare, education.
So it's funny that you say it's the first-time buyers because we're seeing that too. The majority of buyers out there right now are first-time buyers.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. Or we got a lot of relocations as well. So we have a ton of people. We've got people moving from Saskatoon, from Calgary, from BC. I've got people who are relocating from the GTA to Guelph. I don't know. I'm not finding it as difficult as people say it's going to be, but I also think it's it's being confident in your product and understanding that people always have to move. It doesn't matter whether or not we are going to be in if we were going to be, because I don't believe we're going to be, a terrible recession. Still houses have to be bought and sold because life events are happening.
So are you noticing any price points a little bit easier? Is everything just easy to sell now?
No, everything's not easy.
Hey, I have to ask you. You know I know the answers.
The answer
but
is
you're on the hot seat.
That's right. Okay, so not everything's easy to sell. I'd say, over the $1 million mark, even though we saw the changes in the mortgage rules and CMHC or SAGEN, right? Is that? We still are seeing probably anything that's over 900 to like over the 900 mark is a little bit dicey depending on what it is, but good product selling super quickly. Like we had a property in Guelph, and it's not a big deal here, but 1.6 million, 3 offers on it, sold for over asking. That was like 5 days ago. We are seeing multiples. We're seeing houses go super quick, like 24, 48, less than 7 days. I know everybody's still accustomed to the ridiculousness of 2022, 100 offers in less than 24 hours, but that was never normal.
What is your average day on market? Like just for the Guelph market, not your average day on market.
I think, I don't have the stats with me, but I think it's about 30 days right now. So It's not terrible.
We're not off.
Yeah.
Toronto's about the same.
Yeah.
We're about 30 days.
Yeah. Like I've been doing this for 17 years. This is not the worst financial crisis that I think that we've ever undergone while I've had my license. So I got licensed in 2008. That was a terrible financial crisis. That was when things I think really changed. I grew up in St. Thomas, and that's a great indicator too. The towns that would be the hardest hit, right? So what St. Thomas has going for itself are lots of things. Lots of famous people have come from there. But their labor force. So the largest Ford plant in North America at one time was the Talbotville plant, which made all the Crown Vics, so all the cabs and all the cop cars forever. And they shut that down. Like that was probably the biggest employer, right? And that was terrible. Like it was terrible for St. Thomas. But there's lots of investment going on there. It's growing like crazy. Things are selling there. So I'm like, if you watch towns like that, I'm not really too concerned. I know it's like, I don't think it's that big a deal.
No, but it is. The micro markets are the ones that are good indicators on what's happening in major areas as well. If things are still moving there, then things will still move in major metropolitan cities. Yeah. It's inevitable. The other thing that I was going to ask you, we talked about days on market. We talked about the tariffs and how they're going to affect the market. Has any of your marketing strategies changed now that, the market's not as easy?
I think, I feel like you're very similar to me. So we are the anomaly where we're always investing in our business, regardless of what the conditions are. So we just never let off the gas, especially during COVID when everything was super crazy. I didn't want my agents to get lazy and I didn't want to become complacent. So we always invested, right? So have we had to spend more? Yeah, we do. We spend actually a bit more on our properties now because we want to make sure they're just right to go to market. It's that investment. And so marketing strategies are investing more in our properties and taking care of our clients. I think that's it, is like really doubling down on our people and doubling down on our product that we believe in. So, yeah.
Okay, fun.
I guess.
It is fun.
Yeah, it is fun because I feel like you and I are very similar and very passionate about what we do. And we love what we do. I know you love what you do.
It's actually problematic.
It is. That's for me too. I think that's it.
We can't take a break.
No.
Because we actually really love what we do, that we want to hop on a call together.
That's right.
So I've traveled with Andra. I think we're the only ones that fully cannot shut off. Like people have gone a day without their phone. You and I couldn't.
Not when we were away. No,
yeah.
No, I don't think so. The only time I've ever shut my phone off was for the trek, which I had promised I would do. And that was the first time in 15 years. And I had turned my phone off. When we got on the bus, the phone went off. We did our walk. And as soon as the walk was over, my phone turned on. And
did that not freak you out?
No, because we were there for a specific thing. And that was for the Shelter Foundation. And that was fine. But they had, my team had it. We're very systemized. We're very, my whole team is super competent, as yours is as well. So I think it's not, people say it's a control thing. It's not. It's easier to be a part of it than not be a part of it. So maybe it's more FOMO rather than, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's FOMO, not control, right? Like,
yeah, you want to know what's going on and you want your 2 cents just added.
That, but also I think I want to participate in the wins, or I want to be there to support them if there's not a problem. And that's not, or not if there is a problem. but I don't think it's like that anybody else can't do it, because I don't micromanage my team, as I know you don't either. So I just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like the fear of missing out on like that moment, right?
So what would you tell a seller if they're thinking about selling in this market right now?
Be prepared, do the things you need to do to get ready. So it is better to take the time to get to market and to come on in the right manner than to rush it to market. So I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of people do rush, or they get pressure from their agent, or we can just do this, but you only have one shot at your first shot.
And then the next thing I'm going to ask you, pre-con in Guelph, because a lot of pre-construction.
I don't want to talk about this because
I know.
I want to punch a million Toronto agents in the head.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
No, but I'm bringing it up because Guelph is one of those areas that when pre-construction was hot,
Yeah.
agents from all over were selling Guelph, but they were selling Hamilton. They were selling like every single pocket, everywhere in Ontario. They were going out and selling.
I'm not allowed to say what I feel about that because I'll get in trouble. So I can't say that. And by saying that,
I want her to get in trouble.
No, I feel like what I would say would sound anti-competitive, and it's not. Like but I'm not going to say it, so I won't get in trouble.
Okay, so why don't I say the politically correct version of what you're not allowed to say?
Okay, perfect.
If you're going to sell outside your market, learn the market.
That's right. You must be an expert in the market.
Like, and it can be as simple as get in your car and go drive there.
Yes.
And go take a look around at what's actually there.
Yes.
Like, don't let your people buy something if you're not familiar with it.
No.
And it's as easy as calling people in that area that are familiar with it. Like, we all have friends in the industry, and being like, what do you think of this project? What do you think of this area?
Yes.
What do you think of whatever?
Yep.
And then getting their opinion before you put your clients in difficult situations.
So very difficult. So right now we're dealing with a really terrible project. And it is a terrible project because it hasn't been on time. The occupancy's been, like, we're not used to any of this like super long occupancy. Like, how long is an occupancy here?
Oh, you just hit a sore spot. Occupancy can range anywhere from like a month to 3 years.
Okay, so like when you think about that,
That's ridiculous.
okay, so can we talk about occupancy? I think a lot of people don't understand what that means.
Okay.
Have you ever
So,
talked about what it is?
I have talked about it on my social, but I don't think we've done a podcast where I've talked about occupancy fees. But I did talk about it yesterday with one of my clients. When you buy pre-construction, there's a portion of time where the building is deemed livable. It doesn't actually have to look completed. So sometimes the hallways are under construction still. Sometimes you're hearing drilling all the time. Sometimes the fire drills are coming. Sometimes you're not allowed to rent it out during occupancy, but you're allowed to live there. And you get an occupancy permit for it. And then the occupancy permit says that you can legally occupy the property. That's when the developer will turn around and say, it's time to earn some money back on the money that I've been shelling out. So they will charge you occupancy fees.
So you're forced to occupy. That is the part you didn't. You are forced to occupy
During occupancy. And it's in your pre-construction contracts that you have to occupy. And they don't tell you how much it's going to be until we're closer to the date of completion or of occupancy. So for example, I had one that recently closed in Toronto.
Okay.
My occupancy fees were $4,000 a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that in Guelph.
And it's shocking because people don't anticipate they're going to be paying that amount.
So in that $4,000 is likely a bit more than what their mortgage would be. Yes.
A little bit more.
Okay.
And it's also considered ghost rent. So this money does not go towards
anything.
Your property. Like, it doesn't go towards your down payment. It doesn't go towards anything. It's just money that you pay to the developer every single month until they close. Now, let me tell you a little secret. If you want to pay the least amount of occupancy, be on a high floor, because the high floors are the last ones to occupy. So for the building that I bought, I was the third from the top. I occupied last. I had a month only of occupancy, and then I went into final closing.
Beautiful.
But if you were on a lower floor, you had about 8 months of occupancy. So you had 8 months of paying ghost rent. Now, another thing people don't talk about is every floor you pay a premium. So you pay a little bit more to be on a higher floor, but if I have to pay less occupancy, I get a better view. It's a good trade-off. So like, you might want to look into getting a higher floor, pay less occupancy, but get a better view.
But also understand that the occupancy can last a very long time. also market rent. Market rent. So where we are, how this conversation started was, we have a project that occupancy was, they had projected it to be this last Christmas. Occupancy, or not occupancy, closing. So completion. So we didn't say
There's two closings. It's occupancy and then also final closing, registration of the building.
Yeah, and so you can't own a condo, a pre-construction, or you can't own a condo that doesn't have a registered condo corp. So that is what they wait for. But you can't register a condo corp until all the amenities in the property are done. So buildings here may not have the same thing as what we're seeing in this one Guelph project is. This Guelph project has a swimming pool. It has like all this crazy stuff that if it's not done, they're not getting registration. Well, they haven't even finished the buildings. The parking lot's a mess. Like there was no parking for the people and they had to park at the grocery store across the street. The grocery store across the street lost their temper and said, you can't park here anymore. You have to have permission to rent. Can you do lease? You can't do leases.
So listen to this. So I'm not going to name the building, but there's a building in Toronto that's going through occupancy right now. And in the contracts, which by the way, if you ever buy pre-con, you have the right to take your pre-construction paper to the lawyer, have the lawyer review it for you. And by the way, at that time, they can go back to the developer and ask for some changes. Sometimes they'll say no, but sometimes they'll make some changes. One of them is to allow you to rent it during occupancy. Some builders won't allow you to rent during occupancy. So regardless, you have to pay that amount.
Or you have to pay a premium, or you have to pay an additional deposit.
Or a fee or something.
That's right.
So there's a building right now in Toronto that you have to pay an additional 10%. Yep. 10% in order to have the ability to rent it out. So you can, on the paperwork, it says you can rent it out if you have developer consent. You can rent it out, no problem. Go ask for developer consent and the developer is going to tell you now, give us an additional 10% deposit and then we'll let you rent it out. The developer's being smart. People are walking away from pre-construction right now.
Yep.
So if they're walking away, they're like, we're going to hold an extra 10%. It's going to be harder for them to walk away because now they've tied up even more money and let the renter be their problem instead of mine. And they still have to approve your renter, by the way. So you'll do your vetting and then the builder will also do vetting and see if they're allowed. Plus the tenancy term is going to be different because it's based on whatever the builder wants. So sometimes they're week to week tenancies until registration or until final closing.
We have month to month. So you can't do a 1-year lease. And so also like how are you protected if you don't own that unit? Technically, you have occupancy and you're the landlord to someone. Like the LTB is very difficult. So the landlord tenant board is very difficult to deal with at the best of times. Like we haven't seen people run into this yet, but what does that look like? I think it's just such a fiasco. And where we are, there's specifically this project. It is so many Toronto, so many people that have no clue what Guelph is all about. And I get phone calls almost daily. And so do my colleagues being like, we bought this investment property. We'd like to sell it. You know, we like to rent it. The market rent is 50% of what the occupancy fee is. They're already losing money. They can't really assign it because you can't advertise it. Everything's gone down in value. So they're already losing money. Like it's just crazy pants. It's like really crazy pants. And it's so upsetting because it's not in the best location where we are. Like Guelph is quite large geographically, but is very specific. We have like 18 different markets within our market. We don't like, as you do here, right? Like the beaches, downtown. I don't like.
Even downtown has a bunch of sub-markets.
Yeah, like Ronsonsvale. Like I'm terrible. I don't know Toronto. I would never sell a house here. I would never, like I have all my other experts to sell houses or buy houses because I'd be like a fish floundering. Like it would be terrible. I would be like, I don't know what I would do. Like, it's just so interesting.
But you mentioned something very specific. Like you wouldn't be trading in another market because you wouldn't know what to do in that market.
Yeah.
And we see the vice versa too. We see people from out of Toronto come into Toronto.
And it's hard because how are you looking out for somebody's best interest if you don't understand? You don't understand what happened around the corner. You don't know what the school district is like. You don't know whether or not your client's going to feel comfortable living in that neighborhood because they're going to feel isolated What is it that they're looking for? Like, it's not just about selling a prop. Like, it's not just about it's not a transaction. That's not what real estate really is, especially when you're spending most of your time with end users, which I believe you and I both do. Like, I know you do deal with a lot of rentals.
Because we work with investors too.
You
like
do,
it's a balancing act.
but you're helping tenants because a lot of people can't afford to own, right? So they're looking for professional help when they're looking to rent, and that's why they're hiring you or they're going through you to find properties and your team. Like, real estate is a little bit different here because there are so many rental buildings and tenancies and like I just
and
think
micro markets.
that's micro markets, 100%.
Like we can walk up the street and it will be a completely different market than if we cross the bridge on the other side.
For sure.
Like, and it's wild. Like, you can't compare them. So even when an out of town agent comes and puts up something on the market here, this sounds bad, but it's like you're salivating, being like, oh, there's going to be a deal here. And there usually is, because if they take the wrong comp for a building that's across the street or down the street or around the corner, all of a sudden that building didn't list for the right price. It's listed for a really good price, and then we get a steal. Like, if you know the area, you're more likely to buy it.
I love that for you, but I feel like that's not how it happens where we are, but I love that for you, right? Like,
no, it happens here all the time because I think, and again, this is contrary to popular belief, but the city has so many markets that it's hard for you to learn it. But when you go a little further out, like, there are different markets outside of the Toronto core that are a little bit more stabilized and it's a little bit more open. Like, if you do a bubble search in that pocket, you can study the market and you can learn about that market. If you do a bubble search here, you can't study the market. It's so drastically different, and a street could change the whole entire thing. A different, like, it's a night and day.
Yeah.
It's night and day. It's the Wild West. Toronto is the Wild West of real estate. And like, I do think that it's harder to learn it here than other places.
I think it would be. I actually do believe that. Like, that's why even when, like, you've seen me, we have some Facebook groups where we can ask for people for referrals. And I'm like, don't put up your hand for Toronto. I don't, like, please don't do that. I want to know that you work in a specific neighborhood because I want somebody to be hyper focused on, you know, what that neighborhood has to offer. And I understand that you can like bleed into a few other neighborhoods, but it is so specific here. And also the density is crazy, right? So your population, like, how many people live in Toronto? I don't even know. If that's terrible, I don't know. If I guessed, do you know how many people live in Toronto? I don't know.
Because there's more and more every day.
I know, but do you know what the population?
No, we're gonna
GTA.
Google this. Where's my phone?
Yeah, we need to.
We're Googling this live.
Okay.
Where's this population of GTA? But the GTA is massive.
I know it's massive. It's like, is it 6 million people?
Where's this GTA? 12 million
I
people.
almost did it. 6.7. Okay, and I think Guelph, if you Google it, I think we're 140,000 maybe.
Okay, let's do Guelph. Guelph is 149.
Okay, so I'm pretty close on my numbers. I try to pay attention. So like London's, I think,
I'm now going to Google it to see if you're correct.
Okay, so I think London is between 400,000 and 500,000.
448.
Okay, so and the reason why I think that's really important to pay attention to is like how many Guelphs fit in Toronto? A lot of Guelphs. A lot of Guelphs fit in Toronto. So that's more than 60 times, about 60 times. Is that right? I think it's going to be about, let's say it's 55 times, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think about that, that's 55 cities with 18 different neighborhoods. So 55 times 18, then you're like looking at another like 900 neighborhoods. I think it's 900 neighborhoods. Like 900 neighborhoods. How do you know 900 neighborhoods?
You're obsessed with the real estate market. You eat, breathe, and sleep real estate. You call me in the middle of the night and I'm still here. That's how you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Like literally all I do, like 12 times a day, is I set my search to 0 days on market.
Yep.
And I swipe through every single product that hit the market that day.
Yeah. So it's
every single day.
So do you call it, we call it a hot sheet where we are. So we actually have something that looks like that called a hot sheet because we are
but how many are on your hot sheet on a day-to-day basis?
Not like probably a 55th of how many that's right.
on ours.
Right?
So when I say I'm addicted, I'm actually addicted.
Me too.
Like someone will call me the next day and we'll be talking about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, like 3 popped up in that building yesterday. And they'll be like, what? I'll be like, yeah, I have to study the market because then I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, see, and that's how like my whole career has been that way. I maybe not to this extent because you have so many, but what I do is I will actually not just look at what came on the market. I'll look at what was conditionally sold. I'll look at what was sold. I will look at who sold it. I will look at who had the listing, who sold
I
it.
flag it. I'm like, flag.
I do that. And sometimes I'll go back and I'll be like, okay, so that was listed. Who bought it last time? Who sold it last time? How long was it on the market last time? Like that is my weird brain for real estate. And that's so funny because you and I are real people persons. We actually are more about our client and the people, but we still love that part, which I think is so crazy.
But I think we love it because it correlates. Like our job is to do the best job for our people. And without us knowing that knowledge, we can't do the best job for our people.
Yeah.
So because we want to help them so much, we're like, we need to learn everything.
Yeah.
Well, and if we know it, then we're like, we can help you.
Yeah. And it's so, and that, yeah. But you can't know everything, but you try, right? Like you're trying. And I feel like I know nothing. That's the best part too. I absolutely feel like I know nothing. That's why I was laughing when you're like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, I don't really have anything to, obviously I have lots to say because I love talking to you, but I still am like, who wants to listen to me talk?
There's so much to say.
There is so much to say.
But I'm going to bring you back and we're going to talk about all the things that are common, but all the mistakes that happen in real estate.
Okay.
Andra doesn't want to talk about it.
Like I will talk about whatever you want to talk about because there's so many things to talk about.
Once again, it's Elena Saradidis, and today I had Andra Arnold with me, and this was Property Play.